Dr. Rob Zatechka, how the hell are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Football practice has started. We got a little stuff to talk about. We're kind of in this, it's like the dead zone of college football. It's like practice has started, lineups, you kind of think you know what they're going to be. Other than that, it's just you're kind of waiting for that first game. Do you know what it is? It's prediction season.
Well, it is prediction season. And the reason it's the dead zone, it didn't always used to be this way. The internet has made this the dead zone because now, during the offseason, from the minute the last game is played, you have like updates where coaches probably give you more access to anything and they'll talk to you, except Matt Rule won't talk to us. We're hoping eventually that it happens. Coach Rule, if this gets back to you, we'd love to have you on the podcast. But
we will come to you. We went to Troy Dannon.
Yes.
We will come to you.
We will come to you. But I think what happens is, you have so much access to players and coaches that you didn't have before. And this used to be the busy time. Now you're right. It is the dead time.
Well, and you get so much information from all these other sources. When you even look at, just exclude the players and coaches, you know everything about every recruit going back to 7th or 8th grade. You've got people following these kids.
Which is creepy, by the way.
It is a little creepy. And it's not just football, though. It's all sport.
Yeah. Basketball especially. Basketball is one of the worst. Soccer.
Volleyball, wrestling. Dude, there's baseball. There's baseball, there's kids here in Nebraska that have gotten college scholarship offers, D1 offers, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. It's everything about everybody from day one year round. And so some of it I like, some of it if you're a fan and you're somebody who really likes this information, and if you really like to kind of dig down into the weeds on this stuff and get into it, it's great. You've got all of this information, the prediction, the analysis. The data analysts love this stuff because they've got all of this info that they're getting on all of these players from the time they're being recruited in middle school up to the time they're playing in college. It's interesting stuff. You talk about when we do the behind the point spread on Wednesday nights.
Yep.
It's coming up.
It's coming up again,
with
a couple weeks away. Yes, I got to find a place to do that because I don't. The studio's still getting rebuilt, so I've got to find a place to do behind the point spread.
I just do it in my basement.
I may have to do mine from the kitchen table. That may be where it takes.
But yeah, we'll get Scott Spreitzer talking again, and from a data analysis standpoint, the information that's available out there right now is amazing, and it's year round. So yeah, the season starts and it's almost like there's this drop off here for a while until actual games get played.
Yeah, the first game can't get here soon enough just because really your access is kind of denied, and kind of the information that flows on a normal basis just isn't out there. Hey, don't forget, this is year number 10 of the Doc Talk Podcast, and we do have a YouTube channel. So if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, we went over 4,000 subscribers. I know that doesn't sound like a lot from some other places, but for us, that's a pretty big accomplishment. We've only had a YouTube channel for like 2 years.
Well, and when we started, the goal was like, man, let's see if we can't get to 1,000.
Yes. And once we got to 1,000, we were able to go live. And then, people watch the stuff. But if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, all you have to do is search Doc Talk Sports and just hit subscribe. We'd love to have you become a subscriber. And who knows where we can take that thing. We just qualified for, once we went over 4,000, we can do like private groups. So we could have people subscribe and we could do like chit chats on just normal nights and say, hey, if you want to come in and ask questions and do some private stuff, if we want to do that. If you're listening on the audio version of the podcast, a number of places to get it. Anywhere you subscribe to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and of course our host Podbean. If you have subscribed to those, feel free to do so. If you are on the audio version, please give us a ranking and write us a review because that helps people find us, and we really, really, really appreciate that. Since the last time we recorded, we've been kind of hit and miss here, but you got Ryan all moved back up at Augustana, right?
He did. So Augie's back up and running. So they're preseason number 2 in the conference.
Really?
And it's always hard to predict.
It's the Northern Sun, right?
So it's Northern Sun, which, I mean, for the local listeners, it's what used to be the old North Central Conference that UNO was in. I always say that, but it's kind of a good description.
Well, the old North Central Conference was awesome because you had North Dakota State, South Dakota, UNO.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a hell of a league. That was a great Division II football.
It was. I mean, it's basically the old North Central minus what's now the Missouri Valley. So it's Wayne, it's Bemidji, it's Mankato, it's Augustana. So you've got those schools up there as well.
Now he's a sophomore, redshirt sophomore. So hoping to see a little more playing time this year. But it ought to be a fun season. The preseason predictions I don't really buy into because 3 years ago they won the conference, and I think preseason they were picked about middle of the pack. The following year they were picked to finish pretty high up, like first or second preseason, and I think they ended up going 7-4. Had an okay season, but it wasn't as high as they were predicted. Last season, they were predicted to finish, again, kind of upper third, but I think they were preseason number 7. It's a big conference. There's a lot of schools there. So if you're 7th, that's upper third of the conference. And they ended up winning it outright. And going to the playoffs.
Yeah, so.
Got beat by Colorado School of Mines.
Yeah, they've got a heck of a program out there. Really good offense.
So yeah, it would be great to follow Ryan this year, and you should follow Augustana football and see if Ryan Zatechka makes a difference for the Vikings. I survived. Are you ready for this? I survived my first tropical storm. And it wasn't the one that happened here. I was in Savannah, Georgia, all last week.
Did it turn back into a hurricane?
No. Here is the deal. It was so.
So this was Betty.
This was
or Debbie.
This was Hurricane Debbie. I was supposed to leave on Tuesday and get to Savannah on Tuesday evening. We got a text from Southwest Airlines like on Sunday saying, "Hey, you're probably not going to get to Savannah because of Debbie. So if you want to change your flights, you can." So what we did, and I was looking at the maps, I changed my flight, and there was no charge to Southwest. I love Southwest, and I even like the open seating policy. I know they're going to ticketed seats, but I've never had a problem with the open seating policy. But we flew out on Monday instead, flew into Atlanta, rented a car, and drove over. I went into the eye of the hurricane, right? And so I was basically confined to a hotel room for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But it was fine. It was, I tell you what, a tropical storm, and again, maybe Savannah didn't get hit as bad, was no different than just a windy rainstorm around here. So
and my daughter's in Tallahassee, so that same storm hit her, and when it hit Florida, I think it was a Category 1 hurricane when it hit that panhandle Gulf Coast of Florida. And then by the time it gets up around Tallahassee, that's about an hour and a half inland. They usually die down quite a bit. They'll cut across, and then they hit the Atlantic, and they kind of roar back up again. And so you guys probably, when it was hitting Savannah, it was kind of essentially getting ready to sort of ramp back up.
Now, when we got there, they didn't know what to do because there was like 4 tornado warnings right away. I'm like, I'm ready for this. People like they've never heard tornado sirens before. They were like, what do we do in a tornado siren?
You go outside and watch for the tornado.
It's exactly right. They're like, what?
Then you know where it's coming from.
Don't go outside. What are you doing? You're not supposed to do that. But the city of Savannah shut down. I was surprised just because it wasn't bad. They just said, hey, we're closed through Wednesday. So we had a college visit scheduled for Wednesday, and they're like, we may do this on Thursday. I'm like, if you don't do it on Thursday, you guys have some serious scare tactic issues here. But we got into the Savannah School of Art and Design, and it was a good college visit. My girls are weird. They love the South. I had the 2 that went to New Orleans. I got one that lives in New Orleans now, one that lives in Oxford, Mississippi, and if all goes right, I'm going to have one that lives in Savannah, Georgia.
You know she's not coming back.
That's fine. That's perfect. That's okay with me.
Yeah, we had one that went south.
Yeah.
I don't think she's coming.
No, there's something about the South, isn't there?
Yeah, it's not freezing cold in the winter.
Hey, how your feet feeling, man?
They're good. This is one of the few times I've not worn them on the show.
So
got the G-Defy.
Yeah. So Rob works at an orthopedic hospital. You guys all know that. Works at Ortho Nebraska, and he knows more than anybody that your feet are very important. The feet are your foundation. And when I was
25% of the bones in the human body are in the foot and ankle.
Yeah, well, look at that.
Facts.
And what we have
Facts.
found is that we started wearing G-Defy shoes a couple months ago, and we could not be more satisfied with the results that G-Defy is giving us. So your shoes play a big part in the way your ankle and your feet feel. So switch to G-Defy shoes with patented Verso Shock technology, which aligns your body, provides superior shock absorption, and a trampoline-like energy. I walked all around Savannah in my G-Defys. I was comfortable.
I wear them. They're my everyday shoe, and then I got a work pair, and then I got a workout pair.
Yeah, we're in our casual shoes now, so we apologize for not wearing our G-Defys today, but we wear them probably 95% of the time, and we could not be any more pleased with G-Defy. So wear the shoes that Dr. Rob wears. Wear the shoes that I wear. It's G-Defy. Go to gdefy.com. That's G-Defy, GDEFY.com, and enter the promo code DocTalk. That's DocTalk20, DocTalk20, and get $20 off your order of $100 or more, and that's with shipping and taxes. So, again, gdefy.com. Since the last time we recorded, there's been a little bit of news, and that is Teddy Prochazka. This dude is just injury prone, man. And I text you. You never text me back.
About the height.
About the height. Is he too... I go to remember the movie Major League? It's too high. And I look at Teddy Prochazka, I go...
Can't be a home run. It's too high.
He's too tall. Is he too tall?
I've had a lot of people ask me that. Is it a leverage thing? Because you have somebody who's legitimately 6'10 plus. And I'm not sure what they list him at. I thought they had him listed at 6'10. I mean, he's at least 6'10.
Yeah.
It's not he's 6'10. It's at least 6'10. Now, and if you're around him from a lineman standpoint, he's proportional. That is an absolutely huge human being. From a leverage standpoint, I'm hard-pressed to think that it doesn't maybe play into some degree in a sport like football. Now, that being said, it's not like college and professional basketball. It's not like that's an unphysical sport. There's a lot of stresses put on the human body playing basketball, especially when it's huge human beings like that. And you think about a basketball shoe coming down on a parquet floor, it's these sudden starts and stops that you see in basketball. So you're getting a lot of these high stresses put on the human body in basketball as well too. Even if it's not as much of that person versus person impact stress, there's a lot of person to floor stress. And that puts a lot of wear and tear on ankles, hips, knees. You don't see a lot of it's not like there's 6'10 to 7'1 guys in college and pro basketball going down left and right at the rate that's happened with Teddy. So you would worry that there's potentially something else going on biologically, and this is complete speculation on my part. If it's sort of a late developmental thing from a tendon strength, collagen strength, something like that.
But this is the third time, right?
So third major knee injury, and I believe from what, again, just kind of following the Husker news, I think he's had both shoulders worked on.
So let me ask you this.
So this will be, I think, his at least fourth, but I believe fifth major joint surgery.
When do you, and I know everybody wants to compete, and you want to have the career that you thought you would do. When does the thought go through your mind about medically retiring?
It varies a lot. I mean, I've seen guys go through surgery after surgery after surgery to come back and play 1 or 2 years. And it's if you love the game, you want that experience. I've seen guys go through that. For him, it's the number of surgeries in this really short time period. Because, I mean, we're talking about, I think this is his fourth year.
Yeah.
So he would have been a 21 grad, I believe, from high school. So from 21 to 24, this is 4 or 5 major joint surgeries.
So what's the long-term effect? I mean, you're not feeling any pain yet, right?
I mean, it's you're not. I mean, I will never do running as a workout. I can't do any kind of impact workout because of knees and ankles, which is why I'm a proud wearer of G-Defy shoes.
See, exactly.
Because I need something to cushion that and to protect that. Now, I go to the gym. I ride my bike. I do the step mill, the stair climber at the gym. We talked about, my son and I went out to Colorado, did that Manitou incline where it's a mile up, 2,000 degree elevation. We did that in a day. So I can go do all of this stuff, but I can't do impact stuff. So, I mean, it puts a wear and tear on your body. Now, here's the thing. I've never had a surgery below my shoulders before.
And you're hurting.
And it's sore. And it's wear and tear. I've hit my 50s. It's wear and tear stuff. It's early onset arthritis. I've never had a major knee injury. I've never had I've had the normal run of ankle sprains that everybody who plays sports has, but I've never had an ankle, knee, or hip injury that has required surgery. So he's on knee surgery number 3 right now, and he's probably 22 years old, maybe 21,
22.
Yeah. Boy, I mean, he's going to have some degree of early onset arthritis. It's unavoidable. I mean, it just is. Now, is this something that's going to hit him at 35? Is it something that's going to hit him at 50? Hard to say. Given the track record that he's had in this short period of time, it's going to be earlier than later, most likely.
Now, everybody has dreams of the National Football League, and I think people looked at his body and went, "Man, this is your offensive lineman." Even if he were to get better, being able to play, he would be too big of a risk based on the injuries for any NFL team to touch him, right?
An NFL team is going to look at any injury as a question mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had 2 shoulder surgeries in high school, and it was for that time era. This is late 1980s, mid to late 1980s. Injuries like that back when I was in high school. So by the time I hit the NFL Combine, that's 5-6 years later. They had all 30 team at the time, 30 teams docs there, just going to town on my shoulders. They'd laid you down on an exam room table, and they're just twisting your arm 5 ways from Sunday, trying to elicit a grimace. I mean, it's just, they know about all this stuff. They're going to put you through all of that and decide whether or not you're capable of playing. And so it's no secret he's had these injuries. It's something they're going to evaluate. And any injury you've had, like I said, I had 2 shoulder surgeries 5 or 6 years prior to the Combine, prior to the draft. They considered that a risk worth investigating.
Yeah, because you're an investment at that point, right? I mean,
100%.
Let's look at the Vikings, and I know there's a lot of Viking fans that listen to this podcast. J.J. McCarthy, I mean, he wasn't injury prone, but here's a kid, number 10 pick in the NFL draft, tears that meniscus. It just came out today, the day we're recording. He's done for the season.
Yeah, and with him, that's kind of a little bit of a special case because there's kind of this in-between state where if it's kind of a really small tear, they go in and basically just like polish it off.
They trim it, right?
Yeah, it's basically the inside the knee version of clipping off a hangnail.
Okay,
is what it is.
So a total tear,
and then there's a huge tear where it just completely shreds it. And at that point, they do what's called a meniscectomy, and they just remove it. Now, if you do that, you're setting a person up for very, very early arthritis. I'm not an orthopod. I'm trying to remember what the docs I work with have quoted me, but you're looking at an early onset arthritis within 2 to 4 years, maybe. And so somebody like that, we were playing pro football, you're looking at a guy who'd be out of the league by year 5 if they
really
that just because that knee's going to be shot.
Well, Minnesota's got to be going shit.
Well, so what happens if it's kind of this middle ground where it's too big to just trim it up, but not big enough to knock the whole thing out, they repair it. They basically sew it and anchor it back into place. It's kind of a cushioning cartilage within the knee that doesn't have a great blood supply, so it takes forever to heal. So when you do a meniscus repair, you're done for the season. Now, it should heal up well. Most of the docs I've worked with all say that these heal fairly well. You just can't go out and play on them. You've got to give it that full season to heal up.
And that's why if you were just to trim the meniscus, and I think Owen, when he played at Creighton Prep, had a torn meniscus in his knee, but he was able to come back in like 6 weeks.
Yeah, you'll see now, and you'll see the guys who are the guys who are playing pro football. You trim it, they're back out there 1 to 2 weeks. Swelling's down, let's go. But they're also getting paid $1 million a year.
Exactly.
Go do that.
Yes.
You get somebody high school, college, get that trimmed up. You're looking at 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
So what does, in your mind, and injuries are interesting. I mean, if you're following college football right now, Texas has already lost 2 running backs. They're down to 3 scholarship running backs. Nebraska's lost. Prochazka lost another player. But what does this do to the offensive line in your mind?
I mean, it definitely kills the depth. I mean, if you had Teddy available, you had Turner available, that's what you wanted to see happen this season. It was going to be interesting to see what the starting lineup would have been. And I mean, you talk about Teddy in terms of his ability to come back and perform at the level he was at prior to that very first knee injury against Michigan when he was a true freshman. I really was impressed with him in the time he played that season. I've never seen a guy that tall be able to get his hips that low to the ground and generate leverage against defensive linemen at that height. That was impressive to me. He hasn't played a ton since that initial knee injury. So he's come back since that first knee injury. He's had an additional knee surgery and I believe 2 shoulder surgeries. And so you saw him play very, very sparingly that following year. Injured his other knee, injured the shoulder, basically played 1 or 2 games and that was it. I think it was the Georgia Southern game and he was out. So finally last year he comes back, played in a backup role for most of the season until Turner Corcoran got injured. I think it was a bad foot injury that took him out at the end of the season. Teddy came back in, was manning that left tackle spot once again. And in my opinion, he was still working his way back into that form. I didn't think what I saw at the end of the season last year, it wasn't the same level, that same ability to position himself on the field to get himself into those same body positions to generate good leverage, whether it's pass blocking or run blocking, that I saw as a true freshman prior to the initial injury. And so when he got injured, that was on the Monday following that open scrimmage that they had. Was that on that Friday afternoon? That was that Friday or Saturday, whatever it was. It was the open scrimmage that they had. Teddy wasn't in the starting offensive line for that scrimmage. He played, but he wasn't in that starting lineup. So you saw it looks like, at least going into the season, it looks like Corcoran was going to be the starter at left tackle. So at this point, I mean, the most you can say from an evaluation standpoint, if Teddy had remained healthy, didn't have this most recent ACL tear, is that we've lost experience to depth.
And depth means everything.
And it is. And so, I mean, the big question is going to be, can Turner hold up? How is he going to come back from that injury at the end of last season? Is he going to be durable enough? Now, you got a guy who's played a lot of snaps in his Nebraska career in Turner Corcoran. The guy's got a lot of snaps under his belt. So I don't, and so durability historically has not been an issue with Corcoran. So I'm not super worried about that. The question is there potentially somebody better in the lineup? Is there somebody like Grant Bricks who can step in at some point? And maybe start playing meaningful reps at the tackle position, or at the very least step up and be that good solid backup that you're going to need, that guy that can rotate in, and you're not going to see a big drop off in performance, especially at that left tackle spot. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Bryce Benhart's been the right tackle for 5 years.
Yeah, I think he's going on like 10 or 15 years now.
Yeah,
the 15-year career.
The guy's been there forever. And the other thing about Benhart, I will say, we've been really rough on both Corcoran and Benhart.
Big time. If you go back in time, it's we haven't been gentle. Let's put it that way.
We have not, and I'd like to say I think we've been honest.
That's why people listen to this podcast, because we're honest.
Well,
you're honest. They hate me.
I don't sugarcoat stuff, and I've tried to give an accurate presentation of what I'm seeing on the field as far as the offensive line performance has been. Last year, I thought he looked solid. He improved tremendously. I'm talking about Benhart this past year. The question would be, do you take him from that right tackle spot and move him to left? And would that be a better move?
Is there a learning curve there?
Yeah, and it's whether you go from left to right to left, it doesn't matter, because there's kind of this muscle memory thing in terms of how you're sitting your body, your hip movement, your first step every time. It's not innate to a lot of guys. And I mean, if you do it consistently, you can get solid at doing it. But he's been essentially right tackle only for the last, I mean, like I said, the last 6 years. And so would moving him create more of a liability versus leaving Corcoran at left, or moving a younger guy up to cover that left tackle spot and provide depth? Or
you would know that there would be a learning curve for the first several weeks, right? Until, I mean, how many weeks till your muscle memory would change? Or does it never?
Everybody's different.
Is it?
Yeah, everybody's different. It's hard to say. I mean, you've got some guys who are really, really good at that. Aaron Taylor, Outland winner. Aaron played guard. He played center. You had a guy who could bounce between a couple of positions. Matt Hoskinson played both guard spots, center spots. My sophomore year, I played both tackle spots and left guard. If you do it a lot, you get pretty solid at it. If you do just one thing and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, go do something else, that's where it becomes a problem. If you've got guys who've moved around a fair amount, it's not that big of a deal, but you've got to do that, and you've got to move around pretty consistently.
So it's analysis like this that you can get from Dr. Rob coming up on Friday, August 23rd at the Hurrdat Sports Bar, because Dr. Rob's going to be part of a panel for the Jet Award Foundation football season kickoff and auction. It starts at 6 o'clock at Hurrdat.
Come listen to us drop knowledge.
You're going to be with Brendan Stye, Damon Benning, and Amon Green.
It's kind of a cool group of people, and Amon's the only, I know Amon a bit, not very.
He's a big gamer. Did you know that?
Yeah, big time.
Big time game. Talk about coming on the podcast, will you?
I will.
I'm serious.
Car guy, games, video games.
I heard he's like, isn't he teaching like gaming at UNL right now?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. What do you teach? Gaming? I'm the gaming coach. It's a good gig if you get it.
I would love to do that.
But
that's a cool gig.
Yeah. So here's the agenda. 6 to 6:30 registration and welcome. Panel discussion with Dr. Rob, Brendan Stye, Amon Green, and Damon Benning from 6:30 to 7:30. You're going to need more than an hour, boys. This motherfucker talks like there's no tomorrow. I mean, this guy talks. He could talk for a whole hour.
You know, Damon does too.
Yes.
Damon,
between you and Damon, you guys won't shut the fuck up.
Here's the problem. Damon, God bless him, he's going to kill me for saying this. He says half as much as I do, but in the same amount of time. Like, when you talk to Damon. slows
He's very methodical.
the conversation down.
Yes. Now, he still had fun on our podcast. He was shocked.
That's a great. If you get a chance,
go back and watch. I think he was mad because I think we had him crying, and he didn't like that we got him all emotional.
We had Sty on. He was a great pod. Yeah, Amon's the only guy that in that panel that has not been on the pod.
Give him shit.
Which, by the way, they do have a discount code. There are tickets left.
Okay.
Doc Talk, 2 words, DOC Talk. Get I think it's $15 off. So
and it's a $30 ticket, so you're getting 50% off.
Yeah, so it's a 50% off if you use code word Doc Talk when you register.
So there's going to be a live auction from 7:30 to 7:45. Some of the live auctions: a Jet Award Heisman helmet signed by Johnny Rodgers, Mike Rozier, Eric Crouch, and Mike Garrett. Grant Wistrom jersey signed by, of course, Grant Wistrom. Tyler Lockett jersey. He's a Jet Award winner, 2014. And so some other awards too. So again, $30 per person includes, or if you use Doc Talk, 2 words, he also comes with a complimentary drink ticket. So
there you go.
Drinks are
good. And I just reposted a flyer on the Doc Talk Twitter page. Yeah. It's got a QR code, so you can pop that open and get registered.
Piece of cake.
Easy.
Cake.
We make things easy for you.
And we got codes. You can do Doc Talk 20 to get $20 off your G-Defies. Use Doc Talk to get $15 off your Jet Award kickoff dinner. God, we're like a brokerage here, man. We're making deals.
You know what we are?
What?
We're givers.
We're givers. That's right.
We're givers.
You're not a receiver?
Get your mind out of the gutter. Dude, and we're not even drinking.
Well, I am. I'm drinking bourbon.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm drinking.
Hold on.
Where are you going? We don't have the ability to cut anymore. Oh, he's grabbing his water. Thanks, Rob, for giving me. I'm drinking bourbon, actually. Because
I literally thought you had.
No,
I thought it was just like a Freskers.
Owen is over here producing the show, and as he's
drinking bourbon.
No, he's drinking a Dr. Pepper. But here's the deal.
I said you're drinking.
Yeah, I'm drinking bourbon because he knows me. Him and I are completely different. He's more like his mother when it comes to his temperament, right? And he just takes things as they come.
Normal.
I am OCD.
He's normal.
I'm OCD, so you were supposed to be here at a certain time, and when you weren't here,
when am I not on time?
You're going to be late for your own funeral.
When am I on time?
You're not. You're going to be late for your own funeral.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that would be kind of funny. Like it's my funeral, and it's like there's this delay, and we're not telling anybody, and it's like, and finally, like. Have the funeral home, like doors bang open in the church. They come hauling down the middle aisle with the casket. That would be funny.
I could see
that
you
would
doing
be
that.
Funny.
I don't remember too many things. I've been to a lot of things in my life, and your father's funeral is still one of my favorite memories. When your brother got up there and said, "We were going to let Rob talk, but we would not be. We would not get out of the church," and that just set the tone for the whole funeral.
Dude, I was laughing at that.
Yeah, it was because everybody who knows you got the joke. Like, oh my God. Thank you so much. But no, I get a little OCD, and I really time is a big deal for me. And so I started pacing. I'm like, I got to calm down. So I went and poured myself a triple shot. There might be a triple shot.
So what kind of bourbon are you drinking?
I don't know what it is over there. I just kind of grabbed it off the top shelf. So
I like how you phrase that. I grabbed it off the
top shelf.
Top shelf.
That's right. Here's the funny.
I had a neighbor. We had just a couple of neighborhood dads last week, and we're hanging out and
we're
having a couple of beers, and one of them brought out a bottle of Buffalo Trace.
I think there's a bottle of that over there.
Is that good?
Yes.
I don't know what good is.
Yes. Here's the funny thing. We are recording at MCO Construction, and we do got to thank Bob Carlisle and Tony Fuccinero for letting us record here. But they locked the beer up.
But they keep the
But the liquor, the high dollar liquor is just out for display. I'm like, well, I just might as well crack this bottle open, So I think
you know what that is?
What?
That's good corporate priority.
That's right.
Is what that is.
Yeah, don't drink the beer. We're going to keep that. But, go ahead and have there's tequila over there. There's some vodka. There's some gin.
This might entice more podcast guests to come on the podcast if we keep having it here at MCO.
But I'm going to tell you, when the studio's done, Owen's got a great vision here. We're going to have a really nice place to come drink beer and
see, I already spend a lot of time in your basement.
Yes.
Do I need a reason to spend more?
Here's the thing is, you know who's missing you is my wife. My wife, because when you come over, you don't leave because you're hammered. And then you
I don't leave because I'm trying to be safe.
That's true.
I don't want to drive home after I just
everybody always asks me, does Rob really get that drunk? I'm like, well, I wouldn't say drunk, but I go, he has to stay a couple hours after the podcast just to make sure that he can drive home because he's responsible that way. But
I'm trying to be.
Yeah, that's when
I could probably drink less.
You get into good conversations with my wife, and she loves those philosophical medical doctor conversations. I just end up playing Best Fiends all the time and listen to you two talk.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a game on my. It's
like Wordle.
It's for no. That would be for educated people. Mine is like Candy Crush, just a little bit different because I have OCD or ADHD. So my wife is like, you have ADHD because I'll be in bed at night watching Netflix, listening to her and playing Best Fiends. She goes, your ADHD is at an all-time high right now. So apparently I have ADHD. I didn't know that. She diagnoses me.
I probably taught her that.
Yeah. But does she not go to you for every medical question? I believe she texts you more than I do almost.
Yeah, that is true. I know stuff.
He does know stuff. So. That's why, and you are learning stuff, especially about the Teddy Prochazka injury, just by listening to this podcast. You are becoming smarter just by listening to this podcast. Not by listening to me, but by listening to this podcast. Speaking of listening to me, I got to go back to the last podcast. We talked about gambling, and people are fucking loony. They really are. They are really loony. And I could have answered on the YouTube comments, but Owen doesn't like it when I do that. And I don't blame him because I end up getting a little snarky. And he's like, Jed, just let it go. But there were a lot of people like, when I said I'm not in favor of legislating morality, right? And when it comes to moral questions like betting, everybody's like, there's typical stupid justice again. If you didn't legislate morality, we'd live in a lawless society. Well, hold on for a second. I'm not talking about something illegal, right? I mean, I know that murder is illegal. I know that theft is illegal. That's not legislating morality. Morality is, can I go smoke weed? To me, I should be able to smoke weed.
Can you gamble with your phone?
I gamble with my phone? Gambling's legal in Nebraska. You're trying to legislate a certain portion of morality. I'm not saying you don't have laws because stuff is illegal. Gambling is no longer illegal in the state of Nebraska.
And there's this... I'm not sure the best way to... I'm trying to coin a phrase here. Hypocritical half measure.
Yes.
Where it's like... You can gamble. You can gamble on sports. But as long as it is in a casino or sports book, but if you're not gambling in Nebraska in a sports book, you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, so if I walk outside the sports book, I can do it. But if I walk inside if I walk 30 feet over here, now I can do it.
Or if you drive from where you're at, 10 miles, you can do it wherever you want on your phone.
Yeah. And
that's what I'm talking about.
Well, and that's the question here is that, so yes, it's legal in Nebraska, but only if you're standing inside of a certain building.
Yes, you are restricting a person's ability to do something they want to do by saying, well, you have to walk in here and physically place your bet.
And I understand the idea behind it is that it makes it harder to do. So if you make it a little harder to do, will less people do it?
No. They'll drive to Iowa or they'll use their own little
Which is
bookie.
The funny thing, because everybody I know has DraftKings on their phone.
I know.
And bets using it. It's just they wait until there's some place where they can use it, and then they whip it out and they place their bet.
I mean, there's a reason we do Behind the Point Spread on Wednesday nights, because we love to talk about gambling. And if people could watch that show and place their bets that night, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of like, well, I've got to go to
Well, I still like it, and I still try and push it out to our audience that if you want to get more in-depth information and analysis of data in sports and how that, like the impact of that on the upcoming games, that half hour, 40 minutes every Wednesday night is still the most information-rich
and entertaining.
Well, source you're going to find. It's there's no podcast, there's no ESPN show, there's no other website that's going to give you that kind of in-depth, and we're giving it away for free.
Yeah, I mean, Scott's very generous.
If you got questions, you can type in questions. He will answer questions live.
Not only that, you can call in the show. Remember, we have a live call in at that point.
So he'll answer the damn questions for you.
So I mean,
when we start Behind the Point Spread, start watching, because it's a great info. If you want to learn more about college and pro football in general, that's the best source. I'm not saying don't listen to us.
Listen to Scott.
But start listening to the Wednesday night Behind the Point Spread we do with Scott Spreitzer.
So I came bearing gifts today. Look at you. You've got yourself a tumbler.
That.
Look at that.
Scott hooked us up. Not Scott Spreitzer.
No, Scott Strunk from Husker Hounds. If you like these tumblers, Rob's got a tumbler. I've got a tumbler.
Sharp tumbler.
It's the Husker Hounds tumbler, serving the best fans since 1995, and it's veteran-owned and operated. And Scott, I do thank you for serving our country. That's why he's put an American flag on the back. But Husker Hounds has been a long supporter of the Doc Talk podcast. It will be again this year. 2 locations in the Omaha area, or at huskerhounds.com. You got Adidas sideline apparel arriving daily, 200 new styles of T-shirts. They've got sweatshirts, anything you want. Husker Hounds at huskerhounds.com. So go check it out.
The nice thing about Husker Hounds.
Yeah. There's a lot of things.
It is. I do buy all my,
look at that.
All my Husker gears from Husker Hounds. We had people last fall who saw the coach rule, the coaching smocks. Yeah. It's the sleeveless quarter zip. Yeah. That all of a sudden are like, or it's the short sleeve quarter zips that it seems like all the coaches really like now. Fans saw coaches wearing them. I had people asking me on Twitter, hey, where can we find those? Is Husker Hounds going to sell them? I text Scott. Scott gets a shipment in within a week from Adidas.
See?
And has them in store, red, white, black, all your sizes.
Well, the crazy thing
he will
about
get
Scott,
whatever you want, and
any team you really want, right? Yeah. I mean, if you want something,
Joel Wilkes gets Oregon Ducks gear, which now they're in the Big Ten. Yeah, but so Joel Wilkes would get Oregon Ducks gear through Scott at Husker Hounds because he could get anything you needed.
Our good buddy Connor Orr is also going to be back on for the podcast for another year. If you need expert general practice or any type of litigation from a lawyer, and sometime in your life you're going to need a lawyer, right? Rob, sometime in your life you're going to need a lawyer, right?
It happens.
That's an inside joke. We won't get into it, but sometimes you're going to need a lawyer, folks, and you're going to need a really good lawyer. And Connor is he's the official lawyer of the Doc Talk podcast. Give him a call at 402-408-6488. That's 402-408-6488, or email him, Connor at orlawgrp.com, or visit the website for more information, orlawgrp.com, because every once in a while, you're going to need a lawyer. You're going to need a lawyer.
Well, and the other thing is we have him on kind of on a semi-regular basis, just because
about once or twice a year.
Few people know more about the NIL world than he does.
Here's where he pisses me off, though. Sorry, Connor. I don't mean to say you piss me off. But he has information. And even with us, even when we're in private, he won't he's like, because he's got that lawyer mindset. Like, I've signed an NDA. I can't say anything.
There's stuff he can say and stuff he can't.
Yeah. But we're amongst friends here. Let us know what's going on.
Well, yeah, us and enough listeners to put us into the top 100 college football podcast.
We're not in the top 100. We've been, for in July there, we were in the top 200 of college football podcasts in the country.
That's good for off season.
And that's good for off season. It's good for a pretty niche podcast, right? I mean, it's not like we're talking in general of college football. It's interesting though to see the countries that listen to us. Like we're top 50 in Cyprus. I don't know what it is in Cyprus, but we are in the top 50 in Cyprus.
Probably because we bring up cricket periodically.
Yeah. There's a couple other countries we do. I'm taking it's military, and if you are military listening to this podcast, thank you for serving the country. We do appreciate it. When the season gets started, another reason to subscribe to the YouTube channel is that we have the Doc's Diagnosis. We take two plays during the year. We've always done Nebraska plays, but you know what the most popular Doc's Diagnosis is? And it's not even close, is it, Owen? I mean, it is. Owen checks out the YouTube stats all the time. It is the punt return from Cooper DeJean. That's our most watched. So I'm starting to think maybe we do other plays from college football. I think we always do a Nebraska play, obviously.
Well, the thing with that punt return is the fact that it affected
the outcome.
The outcome of the Big Ten race.
It did.
I mean that was an impact upon the Big Ten West, which doesn't exist anymore.
No,
but yeah, no. Actually, I think that would be a fun thing to do when you're looking at when there's certain plays that are going to affect conference races, conference outcomes. Which, if you're in the Big Ten or the SEC, that's playoff spots.
It will be this year for sure, yeah. Most certainly. But we do want to thank Centris Federal Credit Union for coming back and sponsoring another year of the Doc's Diagnosis. That will start week number 1. Again, studio's not ready, but we'll be able to do it around here. So the Doc's Diagnosis presented by Centris Federal Credit Union coming up when the season starts. So, do you want to? The AP Top 25 preseason poll came out. Nebraska's not ranked.
Got votes.
Iowa's number 25. But you had 4 teams out of the Big Ten in the top 10. You had 4 teams out of the SEC in the top 10. Then you had Notre Dame, I think, at number 7. Which I'm not seeing it. I don't get the Notre Dame gets loved just because it's Notre Dame. Every single year, Notre Dame gets loved.
Although there's I think it's the Four Horsemen podcast. There's a Notre Dame Twitter page I follow. I got to look them up real quick. And obviously big Golden Domer fans, but he actually put out kind of an interesting tweet. I don't know if I could find it here real quick, but he looked at that kind of what you just touched on there, where he said kind of the big knock against Notre Dame is every year they're overrated going into the season. And he did a breakdown of, what was their preseason ranking and end-of-season final ranking like the last 5 years? And interestingly enough, that final ranking's been within about 1 or 2 spots of the preseason ranking every year for the past 5 years. So wherever they've been putting Notre Dame the last 4 or 5 years, they've kind of been landing right around that spot. So I wouldn't... They're kind of hitting that one, at least with Notre Dame. So I'm not sure I'd want to overly argue that.
I just think Notre Dame's one of those schools where, it can be there, but it's just not good enough to get over that hump of that upper echelon.
I don't think people are sold on the coaching yet. And I think you're still seeing occasionally some of these decisions, kind of these decisions that occasionally will affect the outcome of 1 or 2 games. And it's easy to pinpoint. It's like, I don't know if that was a great coaching decision. Now, on the flip side, nobody's paying me to be a coach. But I don't know if people are sold on Freeman.
Did you ever want to coach?
Oh, there's kind of that mental game you play, like, what would it be like if I was a coach? And I think it would be, I think I would enjoy it. I don't think I'd be very good at it. I think I'd be okay.
I've never heard you say you would not be very good at something.
There's things I'm with a lot of things I got to be kind of very grassroots, hands-on with. And if I was maybe an offensive line coach, perhaps it's just the very, very good offensive line coaches tend to be, at worst, pretty good offensive coordinators. Milt Tenopir, at least when it came to calling a run game, had a great feel for Nebraska's offense. He could have called plays. And I know Osborne relied on him from a just play-to-play advice standpoint in that regard. But good offensive line coaches know the whole offense.
Well, Bill Callahan, right?
So, yeah, it's just his game situational awareness is horrible. He's a great O-line coach. He's the outlier who is a great O-line coach, mediocre offensive coordinator, bad head coach.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
It starts degenerating the higher up he goes. Tenopir would have been a very good offensive coordinator. I truly believe that. He would have been a great O coordinator. He loved O-line. I don't think I could be a great O-line coach. I think I could be a good O-line coach, but I don't have that coordinator mentality where I'm sitting here going, okay, here's what the defense is throwing at us. Here's what I would use to counteract. Now, if I lived in that world for a while, I would pick that up and get it. But at least as a casual former offensive lineman, I'm not sure I've got that skill set.
People may not like this question, but I'm curious because you see a lot of coaches that will, I was an O-line coach, and I was a tight end coach, and I was a running backs coach, and they kind of move around positions.
And some guys just have a good football mind and are able to do that.
So is coaching – this is going to sound like a really weird question, but is coaching about motivating – or is it technique? Or is it, what makes a good coach?
That's what makes it tough, is that it's harder than heck. There's a lot of times people here, there's what's called the coaching pyramid. And like the top of the pyramid is like the motivation. Then it's like technique and fundamentals. And then you get down to the bottom of the pyramid and it's chasing down academics, and it's talking to parents, and it's dealing with kids' mental health issues, and it's dealing with kids' injury issues. And there's a million things you've got to be at least pretty decent in as a person. You've got to have a really broad skill set as a coach.
Well, and sometimes great assistant coaches are really great assistant coaches because they're great recruiters. They're probably not very good coaches.
Yeah.
As far as, and what I mean by that is that they're not maybe the most skilled when it comes to technique and stuff. But some coaches are just known as they're recruiters, and that makes them a good coach.
Although I will say the coaches that are very good recruiters almost always are outstanding motivators. They're going to find the buttons to push that are going to get you to go out there and perform. And that kind of rings true. So there is going to be a little bit of carryover with coaches like that. And everybody has different skill sets. Some guys are going to be these absolute technician-oriented guys. I'm not going to say his name. I would probably say one of the best technical coaches I ever played for, and it was an NFL offensive line coach. Just a terrible human being. Just horrible at motivating. And you saw a lot of morale breakdown on the offensive line. And I talked to guys with other teams that he coached for, and they all said the same thing. They said, if he's there long enough, morale breaks down.
So he's a cancer.
Little bit, yeah. The guy, literally, the offensive line coach is the locker room cancer. And it ultimately cost him his job with the team I was with at the time. Not only played for two teams, so it'd probably be easy to go look this up. But he ended up.
You're only with one for like a month.
Yeah, he ended up getting fired because they're just like, okay, it's like we can't have from an administrative.
We'd like to have that conversation. You're a great coach. You're an amazing tactician. You're a bad human being, so you need to go.
Yeah, it just destroyed all motivation.
And even at the pro level, right?
Yeah.
Because you do have to motivate at the pro level.
You've at least got to be. You can't be a bad person. You've got to at least. Your position coach is your boss at that level, at any level, and so that's the guy that you're working with. That's your immediate supervisor. And that's the guy if you've got an issue like, hey, I'm having trouble with where they're putting their linebacker and where that three technique, where that interior D lineman's lining up at, I'm having trouble getting to that linebacker. How are we going to get around this and get this fixed in real time? That's the guy you're going to figure that kind of stuff out during the course of a game. And you've got to have somebody that you've got a good working relationship with. And it's interesting, again, something else I'm going to talk about at that level. There's a little bit of a difference, I think, between male athletes and female athletes in this sense. I've played with a lot of guys that you're looking at and you're like, that guy's kind of a dickhead. I don't lie. It's not the guy I'm inviting over for dinner. But on a football field, I can probably find a way to work with that guy. And I think most male athletes have that mentality and can do that. I will back that guy up on the football field.
Especially if he produces, right?
Yeah.
If you produce, you do your job.
Yeah, and that plays into it, although if you're not producing at the NFL level, you're gone.
True.
So, and it's the same way with the coaches. It's one of those, the guy's a little bit of a dickhead, but shit, you know what? During the course of the game, I can work with them. We'll figure it out. We'll get the job done. This guy was so bad, you couldn't even get around that dynamic.
Wow.
I mean, do you know what I mean? Am I right in saying?
No, you're you're 100% right.
In terms of, you're an organizational structure guy.
It becomes
your job right now, and so it's if you can find a common ground to work on, even if you don't like the person, if you can find a common ground that you can work on, you're still going to figure out a way to work with them. And from an athlete coaching standpoint, this guy went beyond that, even to the point where it's just like, yeah, screw you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it comes to the point where it's bad for the culture of the organization, right? So you could have high performers and that are just bad human beings, and even though they're performing at a high level, maybe for revenue and stuff like that, eventually they're going to cost you money because they're making life miserable for everybody else in the organization.
Exactly. So
it's interesting that even happens in the National Football League because people don't think of it like that.
Yeah, it does. Now the other thing is those coaches will bounce from team to team.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't really go away, and it's kind of it's a very closed-in fraternity. Same thing with college football, and you don't see a lot of guys bouncing between pro football and college football. A number of them do, but there's a lot more movement within college football and a lot more movement within pro football than there is movement between college and pro. But this guy's bounced around with a lot of teams over the years. But my point is
he still coaching?
I'm not sure. Last I looked, I believe he was.
Wow.
It switches. I mean, that was almost 30 years.
So that must be your same age or pretty close to it.
He was about 10 years older than me. He was about 15 years older than me at the time.
You know, everybody's going to the Giants webpage now and going, who was the coach? Who was the coach? It will be tweeted at you by the end of this podcast.
Somebody will look it up. So, and I played for some really great coaches with the Giants and then Jacksonville that I really, really like. I mean, it's guys that I liked. But my point is everybody's got a different skill set. Yeah. And this guy was an amazing technical coach. I learned more about playing offensive line, technique, practice drills, all of that from this guy.
But you also learn what type of person not to be.
Oh, yeah. Which is, I mean... Well, there's a silver lining.
You started the podcast by saying it's prediction time, right? It's prediction season. And a lot of people are wondering. And so we've reached that point of this podcast. We're going to do predictions. We're going to go through these fairly quickly. There's just so many freaking teams in the Big Ten now. We're going to do the over-unders, okay? The over-under on wins. We're going to start at the bottom, work our way up. Is that okay with you?
Let's do it.
All right. And we won't spend a lot of time on these. A couple of them we will. Purdue, 4.5 games. Over or under?
Over.
Over. Okay. Michigan State, 4.5 games.
Under.
Yeah, I looked at the schedule. Does not play well for Michigan State.
Yeah, that's a tough schedule.
Here's the interesting one.
And I'm a Spartan fan. Everybody knows that.
Northwestern is at 4.5. Northwestern overachieved last year.
Big time.
Do they come back down to reality this year?
I think they have a sophomore slump. I'm saying under.
So first three are you got one over on Purdue, two under. UCLA is interesting. UCLA is at 4.5, starting with a new head coach. A lot of people, right after the Big Ten media days, their point spread with Hawaii dropped a full point. Remember, he looked confused.
And that was Foster.
Yeah, so it was one of the things where he came out and he goes, "Hey, we're in LA." You know, it was, in case you guys want to know that. I mean, people are like, if you can't prepare for a news conference, can you prepare for a season? So their season opener with Hawaii, they dropped a full point. They got games at LSU, they got games at Penn State, games at Nebraska, and they're 4.5 as well.
I'm saying under.
I'm going to say under as well.
Yeah, and it's too many changes.
3 teams at 5.5, Minnesota at 5.5.
I'm going to say over.
I listen, I know people don't like row the boat and all that stuff. I think he's a hell of a coach. I really do.
As much as he drives me nuts, yeah, and they have consistently.
They got to listen. Their offensive line is usually good, and they like to run the football.
They consistently undersell and overperform. Did I say that right? Is it
underperform?
Undersell, overperform.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Yeah,
you're right. PJ Fleck is one of these guys where you're like, God, I don't want to like him, but in a way, I kind of like him. I don't know what it is.
I don't like him, but I respect what he's doing as a coach.
How about Brett Bielema at Illinois at 5.5? This is year 3 for Bielema now. I think they expect more than 5.5.
I really thought we'd see the old school Wisconsin Bielema.
I just think it's hard to keep players at Illinois. It's hard to attract players to Illinois.
Yeah, I'm saying under.
Under. How about Indiana at 5.5?
See, this is kind of the dark horse for me. I'm going to say over.
Really?
Yeah, they're the team that I think is going to be kind of surprise a few people.
Wisconsin's the interesting one. This is a big year for Fickell, right? I mean, year number 2. They expect big things in Badgerland. I mean, Wisconsin fans are dealing with Nebraska fans dealt with when Barry Alvarez. That was like Tom Osborne leaving. I mean, it really was. They're at 6.5. They got games against Alabama. They got games at USC. They got Rutgers. I think that Minnesota game is going to be huge. But 6.5 for Wisconsin. And it's a half that kind of...
I know, that's the problem, because I look at them, when I've gone down their schedule, I got them at 6 wins, which is a bowl game.
That's an under, though.
Yeah, I'm going to say under.
There you go. Maryland at 6.5.
Over.
Washington at 6.5. New coach. Lost a lot. But, yeah.
See, that's the thing. They're replacing a quarterback, which I just saw... I'm backing up to Wisconsin here real quick. Yeah, they've transferred quarterback from Miami, so they got a new quarterback in there at Wisconsin. But yeah, same thing at Washington. It's, I mean, they kind of, I mean, they went as Penix did the last year or two, and so without him, I'm going to say under.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on that.
Yeah, new coach. They lost Penix. That's going to be that's some big shoes to fill.
Rutgers,
and it was by the way, that was a good coach. DeBoer was a great coach, by the way, that they lost.
I think he's going to do well at Alabama.
Yeah, I hope Alabama's patient, because I think they're going to be an 8 to 10 win team for 2 years, and then they're going to be this really nice, consistent 11 win team.
If he gets to 10 wins this year at Alabama, I don't think you'll see a drop off at all. I think people will go, "Oh, he can win."
Yeah.
Rutgers at 6.5. They play at Virginia Tech. That's a tough non-con game.
I'm going to say over.
I'm a Greg Schiano fan.
I am too. I think he's a very good coach.
Lincoln Riley's got a big year at USC. This is year number 3, 7.5. Here are some of the games. They got to play LSU. They're at Michigan, and they've got Notre Dame.
7.5.
7.5.
I'm saying over.
I think USC could surprise people.
As much as I think Lincoln Riley bothers people a little bit, I'm not sure what he's done to piss people off.
He went for the money. That's why people get mad when they go for the money, but I don't blame him either. I don't blame him.
I don't either, and I thought he was a good coach at Oklahoma.
Well, and here's the deal. Oklahoma is a historic program. I get it. When you're going to the SEC, you go from being Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12 to Oklahoma in the SEC.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I mean, he went from a Big 12 coach to a Pac-12 coach, and I think he was in a couple of leagues that were fairly, I don't want to say easy to win in, But I still think he's going to do well in the Big Ten.
The big question would be, how is their defense? Because you have to have a defense in the Big Ten to win. You do.
Yeah.
If you don't have a defense, you are going to struggle. Here's one I'm hammering the over on. I'm going to go in with my pick right now. Nebraska's at 7.5. I'm hammering the over. I think Nebraska's a 9-10 win team.
Oh, I'm going to piss people off. I'm going under.
No.
Yeah. Looking at the schedule, there's a couple games I'm waffling on, but I got them at 6 or 7.
Really?
Which is under.
I think I believe in the rule factor. I do.
I do too, but here's where I'm at. Was Colorado a good team last year?
No.
I think Nebraska was an okay team last year.
You cut down the turnovers, it's a completely different season.
And that's the thing, is that until I see it's the big 3: penalties, turnovers, special teams miscues. Until I see all of that shored up, I'm kind of hanging on the under a little here. And now here's the other thing. I don't think that's a bad thing, because if they get 6 or 7 wins, you're going to a bowl game, and it's a massive stepping stone from where we were last year.
I'm hammering the over, though, dude. I'm going to drink the Roulade. I am.
I would rather have. So you want to undersell and overperform? 100% every time. It's the fact that Colorado was able to kind of get into our heads last year, and you saw a couple things went bad, and then it just turned into a boat race. That can happen.
Yeah.
That does happen. And it's happened a lot with Nebraska over the last several years. There's some mental block that you don't just flip a switch and, it's year 2, now we're going to be fine. So that's the thing that they're going to have to overcome. And are they capable of doing that? Yeah. Now, when I look at that schedule, do I say the potential's there for Nebraska to get 8 to 10 wins? 100%. I'm not looking at teams like Colorado and going, oh yeah, they're completely inept. Is Colorado a good program? No. Do they have problems? Yes.
Do
they have some weapons that can cause a lot of damage? Goddamn right they do. Shadur goes off. Travis Hunter has a good day. Nebraska has 2 big turnovers, and Colorado capitalizes. All of a sudden we're losing that game in Lincoln. I'm just saying, don't automatically look at all the behind the scenes shit, all the crap you see with Dion, and go, it's a shit show in Boulder. We're going to win that game.
Just let it be known.
Stuff happens.
We are recording this on August 14th. Rob said the under. I said the over. Just let's keep that in mind. Here's what I'm struggling with, because you know that I'm the Iowa fan here, right? And that Iowa's at 8.5. And the quarterback situation is not any better. Cade McNamara is not performing early in practice. Kirk Ferentz has even said that. They haven't named a starter yet. You got the Sullivan kid from Northwestern that came in. They don't have, and then they have Marco Lainez. Iowa's defense is going to be unbelievable. It's going to be, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be an unbelievable defense. 8.5 scares me. I'm going to go with the under. I think
they get over.
You're going to go, really? Wow. You take the under on Nebraska, you take the over on Iowa. That means,
did you see
if that's the case, then you've got Iowa beating Nebraska.
Do you follow Ben Stevens?
Yeah.
Okay. So he had reposted a statistical breakdown another guy had put together comparing Iowa and LSU. And the point that was being made is the fact that teams that score more points tend to win more games. And I think he said, like, LSU last season averaged, I think it was 45 points a game. Iowa averaged, I think it was like 14.5.
Yeah.
Both teams won 10 games last year.
Because Iowa's defense was incredible.
Defense and special teams.
And they got an Australian punter again.
10 wins easy. Done.
Punting is winning.
Done.
There it is. Here's where I'm hammering the under. I'm hammering the over on Nebraska. I'm hammering the under on Michigan. Michigan's at 8.5. Michigan's got Texas, has Ohio State, has Oregon. I'm not. You lose J.J. McCarthy. You lose Blake Corum. You lose. I think they only have like 7 starters coming back. I'm hammering the under on Michigan.
Under. I'm with them too.
Okay.
And here's the other thing too. You lost Harbaugh.
Yeah.
You lost half that coaching staff. Might have been more. Like half that staff followed him. God, I've been a big critic of Harbaugh. And it's...
Listen, I like Jim Harbaugh. He changed a lot.
Okay. And that's my point, is that I used to hate his guts. The guy just... The whole khakis thing, the shtick. There was too much shtick, not enough performance on the field. But even shtick Jim Harbaugh was still winning like 9-10 games every year.
Yeah.
It's just he would lose to Ohio State every year.
And that's a game you got to win.
Yeah, and then he kind of, the seat got hot. Something happened during that COVID year. I mean, it all happened like, it was all that 2020 season.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden, Harbaugh shut the heck up.
And coached.
And you didn't see him in the shtick went away. Like all the non-football stuff that you saw him putting out, living in the media, all of that went away. And all of a sudden, that team got really, really good. Back-to-back playoff appearances, national title. Forget the whole cheating thing. Freaking everybody's out there trying to steal signs. That was the biggest bullshit thing ever.
Well, even forget texting to recruits during COVID. Hey, tell me somebody who didn't text a recruit during
Everybody
COVID. Exactly.
did that. It's just so the whole, well, they cheated their way to, no. They had a hell of a team. They had a great group of talent. They developed well. Arguably the best O-line coach in the college game right now with those Harbaugh teams. That's why they won. That's now gone too. And so I think you can talk about Corum, you can talk about McCarthy, you can talk about these losses that they've had in terms of talent. Losing half that coaching staff is going to be massive for that program.
How about James Franklin and Penn State at 9.5?
I'm going over.
Over. That means they get 10. So who? Okay, so
he could. They just can. I mean,
I think it's a big year for James Franklin because
it is. But they've been a fairly consistent team over the years. I mean, it's when you looked at when it was and I understand the divisions are gone now, but when you looked at the Big Ten East, I mean, it was always Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State.
Yeah,
and it's. I still kind of feel it is there too.
So
that hasn't changed a ton.
How about Oregon at 10.5?
I'm going to go over just because I'm a huge Dan Lanning fan. I think he's a very good coach. I'm still trying to figure out how they didn't beat Washington at least once last year. I mean, what was it? 6 point lost twice, 6 points total.
I think that's what it is.
7 points total. I thought both were 3.
And I actually thought, people can say, well, they didn't win, but I thought Oregon was a better team than Washington. It'd be interesting just with the defenses you're going to face in the Big Ten, because it's different than the Pac-12. It is.
It is. Dan Lanning seemed like he kind of liked running.
And then you have Dylan Gabriel as your quarterback. Here's a guy he played under Scott Frost at Central Florida.
Yeah. That's amazing to think about that.
It really is.
Some of these guys, well, we talked about Bryce Benhart. Some of these guys have been around for a while.
And then what many believe is the best team money can buy, Ohio State at 10.5. Over. I'm with you on that. So
yeah, I'm not sold on the whole. I'm still trying to figure out because I got family who's my cousin Matt's an Ohio State grad. Now he hates Ohio State and loves Nebraska, but it's. I know a lot of Ohio State fans, and I don't know why. It seems like there's a weird amount of criticism of Ryan Day.
Because he's not – you didn't beat Michigan. You've lost to Michigan. You're not winning titles. That's the expectation. Ryan Day is on the hot seat. If they win 9 games, that dude may get fired.
It'd be the biggest mistake ever.
Well,
I mean,
Nebraska fans know what happens when you fire coaches that win 9 games.
Yeah,
so it doesn't usually go well.
Yeah, I mean, now I say that Ohio State fired John Cooper, who averaged 9 wins every year, just couldn't beat Michigan, and they replaced him with Tressel. Wins a national title. So maybe you do that. Maybe I think Ohio State. Somebody sold their soul to the devil up there, because then you get rid of Tressel and you get Urban Meyer, and then Urban leaves and you get Ryan Day. I'm just like, how did they get that run of coaches? That's mind-blowing.
You know why? Because it's the Ohio State University. They have the copywritten. All right. That's an hour and 14-minute podcast. Hope you not bad for kind of the dead period of college football, right?
Prediction season.
We do want to thank our good friends at HuskerMax.com. They help distribute this podcast. Go to HuskerMax.com when you need Husker news and information on a daily basis. Joe Hudson, David Max do a wonderful job at getting the information that you need. Go see Dr. Rob at Hurrdat Sports Bar on August 23rd.
23rd, 6 p.m.
Tickets are $30, but if you want 50% off, use the promo code DocTalk, and you're going to get 50% off, so your ticket's just going to cost you $15.
And like I said, go to the Doc Talk Twitter page. I did just repost the flyer for that with the QR code to register.
So for Owen Justice, who is he's dirty. He looks like he's been playing football with no pads.
Day job.
Yeah, he's got a day job. He works for a living. For Dr. Rob Zatechka, I'm Travis Justice. We will talk to you next week on the Doc Talk Podcast.